Namaste. This is Michelle Skaletski-Boyd. It's important you understand that even though I am certified with the International Medical and Dental Hypnotherapy Association, I am not a doctor, nor should any part of these experiences be construed as medical diagnosis or advice. Most importantly, follow your inner truth and enjoy the experience, come what may.
Namaste, it's Michelle Skaletski-Boyd, your soul journey guide. And I wanted to do a little topic on money. Money is really not a little topic. I have spoke many times on money and experience with money, let's say. And it's interesting because a lot of experts in the field will contact me and ask me for advice on money. I love how money shows up for me, but it shows up in so many different forms. It doesn't have to show up in cash. It doesn't have to show up for me in my bottom line or my bank account anymore the way it used to. And so I've really shifted my position. It used to be where I really worked hard, and I worked hard for my money, and I was proud of my money, and I was proud of my bank account, and I was proud of what my statements look like, and I was proud that I could say, hey, I'm making $10,000 a month or $15,000 a month or whatever. Sometimes I'd have a $20,000 a month. I was proud of that, and we all can work hard to bring in our money sometimes, especially if we get a bonus or if we have a job where it's commission based like I used to. All these things can be good incentivizers, good motivators. But really what I'm talking about is the energy of money. And I wanted to talk about that because I know many of you have come to me and you've asked me, how do I make more money? And I want to just tell you that this is my truth. Okay. We all have our own experiences. We're all on our own paths. So that's important that you remember this. But many times I have talked to leaders who are putting on telesummits or virtual events, and they're asking me specific questions around money, and they're wanting to know my thoughts and my opinion on it. And I will give, in that 30 minutes or 45 minutes, I'll give information, but usually it's let's say vague. I'll give definitions and I'll talk about a story in my experience. But I wanted to spend this time kind of wrapping up a lot of those interviews so that all those little legs, all those little branches of all those interviews start to make some sense. And I just wanted to take some time and to get a little more clear with what I mean by money. So many of you have talked to me about money, and I want to kind of bring money into the body for a minute in terms of, they say you are what you eat, right? Well, it doesn't matter what you're eating, whether you're eating food or you're eating thoughts all day long. We are what we eat. We co-create our reality. That's another way of saying that. Right now, you have some type of, let's say, crisis around money. And you're either trying to make more of it, or you're trying to get ahead in a certain way, or it keeps showing up and then it disappears. And so let's talk about where money is. Where is it housed in our energy field? When it comes to money, money is generally housed in the second chakra. And I say second chakra because the second chakra is all about relationships. And so our relationship to money is really, really important. So if you remember the acronym for the chakras, it's ROY, G, BIV, red, orange, yellow, etc., etc. You know then that the orange is the money chakra. And the money chakra is really interesting because it does have everything to do with family. It has to do with relationships, and it has to do with how you view those relationships and family. So the very first question that I ask you is, did you feel stable growing up? And if we didn't feel stable, if everything felt rocky, if mom and dad had some money, or mom or dad, depending on how you were raised, maybe you were raised by grandparents, etc., if they sometimes had money but sometimes didn't, or if they were constantly, quote unquote, broke, right? And that was kind of a theme where they didn't know how they were going to get the next meal, then we have a lot of this stuff kind of in our field ancestrally in terms of money. The relationship to money is kind of rocky. Not so much even around money, but just what was your relationship like? Was it on again, off again? Was it consistently loving, or was it also critical and difficult and tumultuous and chaotic at times? And if that's the case, then it's no surprise that money is going to really show up in the same way. Here today, gone tomorrow, right? Can't really depend on it. Don't really know what to expect. It's all about relationships. Money is a relationship. So what I've learned as I've learned more and more about myself and about this chakra, the importance of shifting my perception, my thoughts, and what it is that I'm telling myself and telling other people. And then everything seems to shift afterward. What's interesting is that the second chakra being about family and being about community, there's some of you who have a lot of money at times, and you are actually the person that people come to for loans, or people come to you because you're reliable, you're dependable, you're a saver. This was me growing up. People would come to me and they'd borrow money from me, or I would float them money for a while. Again, this is about relationships. Most likely, when it comes to friendship, you also are the dependable one, the reliable one, the one that people can count on, the one who's always showing up, the one who will, bail you out. Yet, how did you feel about loaning the money, right? Like for me, it was like, okay, I have it. I'm going to loan it to you. I did have some concerns. Were they going to pay me back? And when was I going to see it again? And because of that, I kinked off that kind of relationship flow, right? And I couldn't necessarily depend or rely on those friendships. And that's what started to happen. Take money out of the equation. That's what started happening with the relationships. Things were chaotic at times, tumultuous at times, abusive at times. And it really doesn't matter what relationship I was in. It was always up. It was always down. There was really no consistency. So what I want you to do is I want you just to take a moment and just ask yourself, what kind of a relationship did I have with my parents, with my siblings, with my cousins, my grandparents, my neighbors, anyone that you really remember hanging out with quite a bit when you were growing up? Was it always kind? Was it always loving? Was it always dependable? Or were there times where you really weren't sure how the relationship was? It felt strained. It felt forced. There were darn right times where it was abusive, where it was scary, where it was frightening. Just recognize that this is all housed in the same chakra. So I'm going somewhere with this. Knowing that relationships, whether it's relationships with friends or family or teachers or colleagues, it's also a relationship with money and a relationship with how it is we see ourselves. So generally, those that are closest to us growing up are the direct reflection to our relationship with money. As I walked my path of spirituality for the first several years, my ego really had no context for what it meant to be an essential being, what it meant to be authentic, what it meant to be true. It really strived for a long time to be successful, and based on titles and based on the money in my bank account. Just ask yourself, what kind of path have you had? Did you work really hard for your money? Are you still working hard for your money? You might have an emergency savings, you might not, but the very idea of loaning your money to someone causes you some stress, causes you to think about maybe it won't come back again. Relationships growing up were hit or miss, so my relationship with money, whether I loan it or I'm borrowing it, kind of the same thing. Or maybe you're the type of person where you grew up a little bit more entitled, as they say, a little more spoiled. Maybe mom and dad or siblings did a lot for you. You really didn't have to do a lot, and you really weren't held accountable much. You weren't really responsible that much. When it comes to money, people are always loaning you the money. And, you really have a lot of bills and a lot of debt, and you can't possibly understand or know how it is that you're going to pay those loans or that debt back. So people just keep bailing you out. You might have a decent job, but here you are again, stuck in this pattern of everyone else taking care of you. And you might have played the role somewhere in between, right? Where some days you borrow and some days you are the one that gives out the loan. Just recognize that wherever you are as a person when you're growing up and you're younger, in terms of personality, how you fit in with your family, it generally will mirror your relationship to money.